There was no reason why we should have become friends, and no way to explain our friendship. Nor could I find an explanation for these long nights of ours, when the stories flowed like water or like whiskey. He would drink for both of us, filling his glass time and time again with a 12-year-old Jameson. I would keep him company with coffee, with Coca-Cola, with soda water. Maybe, as Jim Faber has suggested, it was a way for me to have the drink without the hangover, to recapture the sweetness of saloon society without risking a seizure or liver damage. Maybe, as Elaine proposed, the two of us had a long karmic history together and were just renewing the ties that had bonded us in innumerable past lives. Or perhaps, as had sometimes occurred to me, Mick was at once the brother I never had and the road I'd left untaken. And maybe we're both just men who like a long night in a quiet room and a good story or two.
Wonderful. That book is A Long Line of Dead Men?
Yes.
Obviously it comes after Scudder has quit drinking.
Yes. It's, I think, the 12th book in the series.
And is this the one based on the tontine idea?
Well, it's the element, it's not really a tontine. There's a club of, a sort of last man's club of the sort that there were, I gather, quite a few of them started in England in the years between the wars by World War I veterans.
For what purpose?
No particular purpose.
I mean, just a social club for...
Just a club where the members would meet once a year and drink to whoever had died since the last meeting. And
in this particular club that you've imagined for the book, there are more people that die than seems reasonable?
Yes, people were dying at an actuarially unlikely rate, and so the possibility seemed to exist that someone was helping them out of this world and into the next, and that was how Scudder got involved.
It's an absolutely magical book.
Thank you.
In many ways is truly my favorite. Ticket to the Boneyard, if I recall, was a very dark book.
Well, I think they're all probably certainly in the dark spectrum. Ticket to the Boneyard was a tough, nasty book, yeah.
Had a high body count too? I'm trying to remember. I just remember overall, it just seemed to me to be, this one, that one that you just read from, didn't seem to me to be as dark. It was a little more of a puzzle because you were trying to work out why were all these guys dying.
That's interesting because some people have said that it seemed more like a classical mystery or something like that, and it didn't seem to me when I was writing it. I saw it more as a meditation, if you will, on aging and mortality and the passage of time.
Well, that's certainly in it, but I did think there was more of a puzzle in it. And
that may be.
I think I mentioned to you earlier I was very fond of Thomas Chastain's book, The Tontine, so I was familiar with the Tontine, but there was not a Christie element, but there was certainly a classical element in this one. Larry, there's just a short paragraph in here from Everybody Dies, which I kind of liked, and I apologize for asking you to read it out of the newspaper, but it just kind of gives a clue, because Mick Ballou, once again, is right back in there.
"That'll do," Mick said, and Andy tossed the shovel, and Mick gave him a hand out of the hole, and Andy got a flashlight from the glove compartment and aimed its beam down into the hole. And we all looked at it and pronounced it acceptable. And then we went to the car, and Mick sighed heavily and unlocked the trunk. For an instant I had the thought that it would be empty. There'd be the spare, of course, and a jack and a lug wrench, and maybe an old blanket and a couple of rags. But other than that, it would be empty. Just a passing thought blowing across my mind like that cloud across the moon. I didn't really expect the trunk to be empty. And of course it wasn't.
I just love the way you really do have that wonderful, you end paragraphs on those sort of wonderful ups and hooks, you know, that just makes the reader, I mean, your books really read themselves almost to me. And that's, I think, it's a sign of tremendous skill on the part of the writer, you know, that you just keep the reader turning those pages almost in spite of yourself, you know. Your books are not books I can start if I'm planning to go to bed anytime soon. I like to devote a whole...
I like to hear that.
Yeah, well, it's really true, and I don't feel that way. I mean, I read so much, I pick up and put down a lot of books, but not yours. And I love the burglar books. In fact, I wanted to recommend to those readers who may not be familiar with Larry, he does have, as you've heard, so many different voices that you should really try. One of the Bernie books, one of the Tanner books has been reissued, and certainly one or more of the Scudders, because you will feel as though you're reading different voices, meeting different people, maybe even different authors, but in fact it all comes from the incredible imagination of Larry Block. Certainly is a pleasure to have you back in Scottsdale.
Well, thank you.
I wish it were more often than every so many years, but I know you've got lots of places to go and stuff to do. But thanks for coming and joining us today.
A pleasure, Barbara.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for another episode in the Criminal Calendar.